You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Aline, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe, follow, share, all those things, review, comment, you know what to do. And if you want to take the conversation beyond what listening here, just listening here, go to Facebook, type in Roofing Success and join the Roofing Success Facebook group. Back again, Andrew Itnyre.
How's it going, Jim? You doing all right?
Man. Yeah, man. So excited to have you back. Your second time on. Your first episode is one that I personally reference to people on an ongoing basis because of the strategies and kind of knowledge that you put out in that around social media and social media content, hashtag strategies and all this cool stuff. For the audience that hasn't listened to that episode or hasn't come across you, give a little background on yourself and kind of how, as a roofing salesman and what you're doing with your social media content that in your business.
Yeah, so started on social media in 2017 off of some advice from another contractor down in Jackson, Mississippi. And I just want to kind of break the ice and kind of see what could happen, if I got online and in front of people. In the first couple of years, you didn't get much traction. You got a little bit here or there, but it was a lot of knocks kind of figuring out, what actually works and how to present content. But it was a really fun time for me because I realized marketing was a hobby for me. And that's something that even when I was younger, I was really into. It's just kind of figuring out trends and adapting them to kind of benefit me as a sales guy. So that's one thing that I focused on heavily when I first started was kind of figuring out the platform and just over the years posting each and every day. At the beginning, it was 3 to 6 times a day, getting an enormous amounts of reach, but really hitting my stride in 2018, 2019 and starting to convert more on the platform of people calling me off of Instagram and saying, hey, I like your stuff. Can you come out and give me a quote? And then even going to home shows and having people come up to me and say, hey, I know who you are and connecting with people that way. So it's been a game changer for me financially, but also not having to work as hard as I used to when I first started, having to knock doors and mail out flyers. Those are the things that I dreaded when I first started the first 2 years of sales that I had. And in 2019, I stopped doing any other form of content. December 20th of 2019, I stopped all other forms of promoting myself except for Instagram and went all in 2020. And that's when I really started seeing growth. And now I believe I'm over 16,000 followers, which is something that I'm very shocked by and just in all overall, but it's been an amazing trip. Just kind of seeing the way things have evolved. And I think right now as a whole, it is the best time. And we were just talking about this. It's the best time to grow on a social media platform. So I think it's just as easy to get into it today, if not easier, than what it was when I started. So I think it's a huge avenue for people to not only get their brand out there, but also put a face behind that brand, put a personality, show what you do each and every day when you go into the office. So that's where I'm kind of at with it right now. And now I plan on kind of seeing these other platforms giving you enormous amounts of reach. Next week, I'm going to start a YouTube, kind of focus on YouTube Shorts, kind of doing my research on that right now. And then kind of focus more on TikTok. You're starting to see a resurgence. I was a little bit worried initially about TikTok because you didn't see them evolving and adapting to the platform. But now you're starting to see more of that. And I think the one thing that's a little bit unique about TikTok compared to Instagram is that they're winning with originality. They're promoting certain contents. They're putting the content creators first by paying them to make content, but also putting their videos out there to go viral. So they're winning on that. But they're not having to change much with Instagram. And you know this all too well, is that Instagram over the years, they adapt to what other platforms are coming out with. And what you see is that when Snapchat comes around with their version of quick form, day to day kind of tracking what you're doing each and every day, they kind of adapt that to their profile. Instagram does, and comes out with stories, and kind of steals, these different features. So I think, and that's frustrating to Instagram right now, is I think that you see them come out with Reel, which as a whole, it's so much more user friendly than TikTok is. You can take a certain section of a song and do a video over top of it, and it's completely customizable. The filters are really interactive, but for some reason, it's just not able to compete with the amount of market share that TikTok has at the moment. So it's very, very interesting to watch. I think it's the first time that Instagram's drawing a question mark on how to proceed forward. So it's an interesting time as a whole because you're seeing competition in the social media space for once, for the first time I've seen since 2017.
Yeah, it's amazing to see, right? Like we've really, I mean, I'm much older than you, and I had a MySpace page, right? And then Facebook really just took over, from that era. And then, Instagram was coming up, and they're like, ooh, that's a good platform, right? And so there's been a lot of those mergers and acquisitions along the way that Facebook Meta has done very strategically, Instagram being one of them. And then the same strategies with Instagram, what you're saying, like I saw Snapchat really becoming popular. And then all of a sudden, a lot of those features, right? The stories came out in Instagram. And so they're really Instagram really, and then those stories, now they're stories on Facebook and they're right. So it's like a lot of the up and coming platforms become testing grounds for the new features. Mm-hmm. But man, Facebook and Instagram, so the Meta team, mm-hmm. man, they're focused on that, right? And TikTok has, like, Snapchat and stories was one thing. Yeah. But I don't think anything has done what TikTok has done.
It's brought everyone in, and so quickly too. The only social media platform my father interacts with at all is TikTok. He'll hop online, once a day on Instagram or whatever the case, but it's very brief, minimal, kind of does what he does. But TikTok, he'll send me videos all the time, funny, different videos. And it's a completely different format overall. And what you kind of see is Instagram kind of trying to take the high road and kind of make it more classier, not as you scroll through TikTok, you see things that offend you in certain ways, or that something that you're like, why am I seeing this right now? Yeah. With Instagram Reels, you're seeing more high quality production values, and you're seeing these, different videos that are short form, but they're really high production. And I actually didn't know this. I was talking to a friend the other day, and the reason why my videos don't do as well on TikTok compared to Instagram is because TikTok values, face-to-face interaction. Mm-hmm. There's very few audios that go viral on TikTok anymore. And same thing with Instagram. They're starting to move towards organic content overall. So the more organic your content is, whether it's using original audio, or if it's just a video that you shot that's interesting and intriguing enough to keep people's attention for 15 to 20 seconds, if you're able to do that, you can get 4,000 to 5,000 views easily. But to sit there and command that attention is a whole different story than to sit there and make an intriguing video for people to see over a nice audio. So that's,
Yeah.
if
It's been a big
neighbors,
change. And in the algorithm, for people who don't know, there's a difference in the algorithm for TikTok and Facebook and all the traditional social media plays. It's instead of showing your content to the viewers that people that subscribe to you or are in the hashtags that you're inserting yourself into, it's an interest based algorithm. So
yes.
as the more it's monitoring the time that you spent on that video, how quickly you scrolled to the next one, and
Mhm.
then it continues to show you things that are based on your interest. So it allowed videos to go more viral, right?
Mhm.
Because it wasn't, you didn't have to have one follower.
Yes. Yep.
And boom, that thing shot to the moon with TikTok, right? Because
Mhm.
the video that you created matched the interest of people that were on there, that were on the platform, and the
Mhm.
people that were interested in whatever you created the video about commented on it and engaged in it and watched it and saved it, and
Mhm.
in doing that they kept putting it out.
Yes.
So that's what we're seeing now, and what we've been talking about is what has changed is over time, Facebook and Instagram's organic reach has dwindled in relation to the paid side. It kind of became pay to play,
Yes.
especially on Facebook for our clients, right? Especially from your business page, right? Not
Mhm.
maybe a little bit less from your personal page. From your business page, man, you put a post up, and it's very challenging to get organic reach.
And that's what was always the kind of turnoff with organic
That's right.
Facebook. I kind of always assume that when you're performing on a platform and doing well with your organic content, if I put money behind it, it's only going to do better.
Yep.
But with Facebook, you get to a couple hundred people on a post, and that's all you get.
Yeah.
For the amount of time that I invest in it, I want to see results. Whether
That's
it's
right.
people calling me, you do get a really intimate following on Facebook, and same thing with Instagram. I have people in
Yep.
my direct messages each and every day, whether it's contractors or customers or just enthusiasts that are in the industry, and you're constantly talking to people. The one thing
Yeah.
with TikTok that I'm not a huge fan of is I don't think that it's as intimate of a relationship on TikTok. I
Yeah.
think that it's more of a, hey, listen, I like this guy. It's a funny video. I'll follow him today because he told me to. And then, once that you're in their feed, unless if they're going over to their friends
Yep.
or if they're going over to their following, sections of the app,
Yeah.
they're not seeing that content. So I think as a whole, moving forward, if anyone takes any value out of this, is that when you're making a video, whether it's a form of content, being able to sit there, turn the video around, and you're talking to someone, you want to be as relatable as possible to as many groups as possible. Because if you're just sitting there talking about roofing, it's like, okay, you might get one or two likes from people that are outside of your little niche, but you're not pulling everyone in at the same time. And looking at your guys' TikToks, on TikTok, I think the best thing about that Itnyre video that you have, the one that I
Yeah.
can't remember how many views it got, but that was your
Yeah.
most popular one, is that if you look at that video, you got Itnyre, which is a famous person, famous
YouTuber. Yep.
YouTuber in our industry, but you guys are talking as a whole about something that many people can relate to,
That's right.
that many people can gain value to. So going forward, I think whether it's on Instagram, Reels, or whether it's TikTok or YouTube Shorts, you want to add as much value as possible to as many people as possible,
Mm.
which is exact opposite of what you're told, by everyone, is that you want to find your niche and you want to,
Yeah.
find those hashtags that everyone's using. That was great 3 years ago. But I think now it's how many people can you pull in to get that engagement, to get that watch time, and that's what gets your content, up in the
Yeah.
algorithm to where you're getting thousands of views.
Let's start with talking about the value of each platform, because each
Mhm.
platform does provide value, right? The value in social media marketing, in becoming a content creator, is the attention. That's where people's attention is, right? People's attention is on Facebook. People's attention is on Instagram. People's attention is on TikTok, on Twitter, on all of these platforms. There's eyeballs there. And where there's eyeballs, that's where that's the value in it, right? That's where how you have you go to a home show and people in your area know you, right?
Yes.
Like it's like you've developed content for the Memphis area, not just for the roofing community, but also if you go out in the roofing community. I don't know what the last trade show was you were at, but if you pop into RoofCon, or if you pop into Roofing Process Conference or Win the Storm or IRE or something like that, boy, you're going to be taking some selfies, and you know what I mean.
It'd be awesome to do that too.
It's just that you've provided valuable content to the community, or what people felt valuable. So there is a value. The value in each platform is that's where people's attention is. But then there's specific value in addition to that in each of the platforms. So how would you break that down?
So I always think it's about building relationships overall. That's my main concern. The good thing about it is I've been able to reach other contractors on Instagram. I've developed a key following of other contractors that I get to bounce certain ideas off of, say, hey, try this, and see what their content and how it's reacting to the algorithm. So I get people that I get to test that out on. But at the end of the day, the realtors, the companies in town, the painting companies, the exterior pressure washing companies that I developed relationships with that give me referrals. And I do the same thing for them. I promote their companies and give them referrals as well. But I don't think I would have had those relationships if I wasn't producing a high level of content that they could have sat in front of a screen and admired and said, hey, listen, I need to get in contact with this guy. Because, when I go out to lunch with them, or if I'm meeting with them, just stopping by their office to do a podcast or whatever the case is, I'm adding as much value as I possibly can on how to produce. A lot of times they want to know what's the best route to kind of go at the time, on Instagram or Facebook. And I'm that guy. So being able to go into their office and talk about those different things and have them use those in their content and see a positive reaction, it just reinforces that relationship. So I think there's an intimacy that you develop with a lot of these contractors, where it's a friendship rather than just a business relationship. And then you're reminding them each and every day with more and more content that they can absorb and take in. And, a realtor flat out said to me the other day, she said, hey, listen, the reason why I send you so many leads is because, if I ever get a inspector that comes out and says that, the roof needs to be done before the house gets sold, she's like, I'm guaranteed to go on Facebook and I'll start scrolling through and I'll see a picture of you. And I'm like, man, I need to call him, so it works out that way. That's one way that it works out. But also building a brand is always a good thing. You will always want to have a personal brand as being an enthusiast or an expert in what you're doing. So when I'm doing these videos, whether it's something where I'm in front of the camera or if I'm editing, it's always pushing me to develop content each and every day that I can get better at and more efficient at, to where it only takes me 2 minutes to make a video. And then I post it on Instagram. It gets to 5,000 people. TikTok, it gets to, 2,000 to 20,000, however many people it gets to. And so I've become more efficient at creating content. And it really is to the point now where if I left my drone at home, my iPad, everything, I can do a full day's worth of work and create the best content in the industry off of my phone by myself with no cameraman. I don't need anyone else besides me to generate that content. And I can take what I've learned over the past 4 years and I can adapt it to other platforms and grow my following. And ultimately that building that brand is just something that's key to growing, overall.
That's a key point there. I want people to really hear this. When you become a content creator, you can go to any platform, right? When you become a content creator, you can go to any platform. The other thing that I want you to listen to of what Andrew said is that as you do this, in the beginning, it's harder.
Yeah.
Right? It's so hard. But once you start creating content, you see content everywhere.
And it becomes fun,
It becomes fun, right? Like if you when you walk out of your door in the morning, Andrew, as you're driving down the street, you see something and you're like, that would be a good piece of content.
Yeah. Yep.
That would be a good piece of, like, it becomes in you, right? Mm-hmm. There's a book, and I'm short of the name on it. I can't remember the name of the book, but it was written a while ago, but it had a graph in it. They did some research that 1% of people on social media are creators. Mm-hmm. 9% are contributors. So those are the people leaving comments, sending you DMs and things like that, right? And 90% of people on social media are lurkers.
Yes.
So they're watching. That realtor that you talked about, she might not be liking, commenting, doing stuff like that. But then she's sitting with a homeowner. They just had an inspection done. They need an estimate on the roof. She goes to her page. Oh, there's Andrew again.
Yep.
All of the dots connect.
And then it transfers into Jim Hood, which is a fantastic realtor in town. He sees my stuff all the time, likes and comments on both Instagram and Facebook. Super nice guy. He just referred me to a $40,000 roof. And so that's the investment for me. So I'm not spending a ton of money out of my pocket to produce what I'm doing each and every day. A lot of it is right off of my phone, and I'm doing it myself. But to be able to get those houses and the referrals off of those houses, I do $1 million a year in roofing sales on average, a little bit over it sometimes. But I do it without having to put in as much effort to go in door knocking and in these other routes.
That's right.
And then on top of it, Instagram is about to introduce something that's like a Patreon where people can go and subscribe and they'll be able to see your exclusive content. So what I'm hoping is that when they do introduce that feature, that I can say, hey, listen, if you take me out to dinner once a month for $40, right? $40, you can subscribe to my exclusive content, and I can teach you how to fly drones, and I can teach you how to edit videos, and I can teach you different things that I do each and every day to get my name and my brand out there. If I can do that, and start all over building an exclusive following, I'm getting paid off of that. I think that's something that I'm really looking forward to. I was going to do it with Patreon, but then Instagram started talking about, doing the subscription service. So I'm kind of holding out because I think that would be the best thing for me, because I can already generate the content, whether it's about roofing or whether it's about, marketing. It doesn't matter. And I know the platform well enough to where it takes me, it's just everything is so quick. And that can benefit me down the road, depending, for $40, if I get 100 followers or 1,000 followers on that platform, that's $40,000 a year. That's and then that can transfer into consulting and doing that stuff, which, my brother does consulting as well. I kind of see the benefits of it, but then I also see the negative sides of it as well, my whole thing is I love my father. He's built a great company that I have to take over now because my brother's very successful at consulting. So, I want to be here. I want to keep the relationships that I have, but I also want to generate content for people to absorb and learn from, because there is an aspect of gratification that you get from seeing these other creators grow and get the reactions that you've been getting for years,
Yeah. It really is beneficial in a lot of aspects. Like, it's fun with the growth and the interaction and seeing that you're impacting people. But then, like, for you, I remember on our first episode, I mean, you essentially did all of your sales from what you did on your content creation on Instagram.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
So it works in a lot of ways, and then you can spin off into these different things. But let's go back. So the value of each platform was, on Facebook, man, it's that friendship, right? On
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, it's similar to that. On
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, man, the way their algorithm works, if you create the right video with the right, boom, that thing is gone, and you have, you'll hit, like you'll see some things happening from there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about the types of content, because
Mm-hmm.
you said, man, I could just, I don't even need a videographer anymore. So let's talk about what you used to do, because I tell contractors this is a great way to start. So
Mm-hmm.
was it that you had a friend that was a videographer, or something like that you knew?
I have a camera guy
A
that
camera guy, right?
yeah, and a lot of the stuff that he does is right off of his phone too. I
Yeah.
prefer it being off of a phone. I think that it's more
Now,
organic that
yep,
way.
now, right? Like it's different now. Being off of the phone now has a lot of value.
Yes.
So when you first started, you had him come out with you how often?
Usually every day. When I first started, it was pretty much every day we
Okay.
were shooting. So, but out of the content that we do, all of it that's drone or anything like that related, I do that portion of it. He takes photo. He did a lot
Okay.
more photography and different things like that, which at the time on Instagram, that's where you wanted to be at.
That's right.
You want to have a good photo with a story behind it or a message behind it that people could relate to. And you could get to 2,000 to 3,000 people,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying. So when people sit there and bash the way Instagram's going with Reels, I'm like, what are you talking about? This was, a couple years ago, the most you would get to was 3,000 to 5,000 people. I think I had a couple posts get to 6,000 people organically, but now you have Reels that popped up and it completely changed the game. Sure, it's a little bit more work, but the amount of reach that you're able to get. I know I have a couple videos that gotten over 200,000 views, and I made money off of those videos too. Instagram
Uh-huh.
pays people now too. I'm sure you're aware of Reels and their now 83 million views you would have to get, but they would pay you $8,500 in 1 month if you're able to get 83 million views. Now that's a long shot. I don't think that's going to happen for that many people, but for the people that it does, that are able to get those views, that's life changing. That's another source of income.
Yep, and that's done through they call it, what is it, like the creator program, something like that? Like
Yes, it's I don't know right off the top of my head, but it's if you go to
become a
your
creator, you become a kind of a certified creator of content on the platform, and that's where
yes.
that monetization is available to you.
Mm-hmm. And
So
it's
now
pretty
let's
easy
talk
to
about
get.
the type of content that was working. You said a lot of photography, a lot of images was really, I mean, that's how you started off, just really crushing it with
Mm-hmm.
that. Things have changed now. You guys are shooting a lot of video on your cell phones. So how has the content changed from 2018, 19 to 2022 in terms of what's working?
Yeah. So as far as what's working today compared to what it used to be, carousel posts that have a meaning behind it is definitely something that if you go to your explore page, you'll see a ton of. So pretty much what it is going into Canva and making a carousel post, 4 or 5 different photos that have a message behind it. This is something that you could do for SEO, Jim, where, you have a picture of you. You don't even have to have a picture of you really, but really going into, what makes someone rank first on Google. And it has to provide a significant amount of value that people say, wow, that is good. I need to share this, right?
Yep.
So you take that carousel post, and if it's relatable to people and it's good enough that people are like, man, people need to know this, they'll go out and share it. So people are saying that pictures aren't getting the reach that they used to. I would highly argue that now, especially with carousel posts, you're seeing pictures or information get 2,000 to 3,000 likes on explore pages, but that's because they're providing a tremendous amount of value that's easy to scroll through and absorb.
And essentially telling a story. providing,
Yes.
So we've done these like tip number 1, tip number 2, tip number 3, tip number 4, tip number 5 in a carousel post, exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Let's talk about how someone can do that. What's a great idea for someone to do that from the
Mhm.
roofing perspective?
From a roofing perspective, you could go through the different, the phases of what to expect from the insurance process. So you can say, hey, listen, let's set up an initial inspection. This is what it looks like. This is what we're going to be looking for. Kind of go through that process. Okay, now we file a claim. Here's what you need to know when filing a claim. I think that's something that, a lot of people can drive value from,
Yeah.
And kind of it can relate not only to roofers, but it can also relate to homeowners, that can benefit from it. It can relate to real estate agents, where they can sit there and say, hey, this is valuable information that we can post, to people that are buying a house that need to know what their premiums are, what an actual cash value policy is, how does it apply to them, and what do they need to know before they file a claim. You could go to that portion of it, and then you could do a following slide that talks about the different materials and different warranties that are available for someone to benefit from. So that's a simple way of using a carousel post where you go from each slide. It's a completely different topic on each slide, but it ultimately is giving people the value to say, hey, I don't know what an actual cash value policy is. I don't think my friend Tina knows what an actual cash value policy is. Let me send it to her.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that would be great. What about, I just had an idea of like kind of walking through the customer journey in a carousel post, right? Like, a storm hits, right? Storm hits on this date, damage on the roof that you can, because you were out there doing the inspection, you have your images of the damage, and then and going through that whole process. I don't know if that's a shareable, but
no, that's great too. But another thing, if you're looking for something simple, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't. The one thing I don't like about what I said is that it's a pitch to a homeowner on why they need to go. Hey, listen, we want you to go through this process. That's why we're sharing this information. Another thing you can do is share 4 portraits of different roofs from the same manufacturer, right? And say 1, 2, 3, or 4. Comment below for which one's your favorite, right?
Yeah.
That gets interaction.
Getting engagement on it. Yeah.
You can take one shingle tone, right? Whether it's driftwood that has a gray base that has underlining tones of tan and brown. If you take that and say, here are the 4 different accessories on your house that you could put, or the 4 different paints that you could go with, that would make this look, that will work with this color. That's another route you can go. So that, when people say that photo is dead on Instagram, I think they're wrong. I'm still getting, 1,000 to 1,500 views of photo. It's went down significantly from 2017, but you have people recently lashing out, like Kylie Jenner, saying, hey, listen, make Instagram again. Instagram hasn't changed. It's just focusing on competing with TikTok right now.
That's right.
And the thing about it is it's much harder for them, because I don't think Instagram has the same philosophy as TikTok has. TikTok has a philosophy of, hey, let's get this out to as many people as possible, get people addicted to the platform, and then we monetize by running sponsored ads around them, right? With Instagram, I think they want to control the amount of people that you are getting to. They always been that way, because what they're wanting is, hey, listen, your video is getting 500 views, but if you run sponsored ads that are cost effective, you'll get to 20,000 people, right? So that's how they always function. So when they initially went to Reels, it was one of those things that kind of shocked me, because for like I said, a year and a half, Reels has been out for over a year now. You were getting at least 3,000, 1,500 at the minimum views on your videos. So, but now I think they're saying, well, okay, our platform is better than TikTok, right? We're growing overall with our users. Let's kind of dial it back a little bit to where, okay, let's make it more competitive to get 4,000 views on your video. So that's what you're seeing now. So that's why it's so important when something's introduced by a platform, they want you to use it.
That's right.
They want you to use it. So you hop on it. And if you go back and look at my first reels, not very good. But I hopped on it and said, hey, listen, I got to figure this out. And over time, it's gotten better and better and better to now where it's pretty, cut and paste for me as a creator to adapt to those platforms.
Yeah, that's a big thing is anytime that a new feature is introduced, and this is not just with Facebook. We see this with Google on the client side when we're doing that. Like when they introduce something new, use it.
Yes.
Right. Like on the Google side, Google local services ads was new, in 2019, late 2018, 2019 started rolling out. Man, the first people that jumped on that, there was this it was wonderful, right? And then all of a sudden, everyone else came in, and now there's competition, and now it's not the same. Mm-hmm. Google Ads was the same thing that was the same thing. Mm-hmm. Facebook was like that. Instagram was like that. Being the first. Gary Vaynerchuk, who I know you're a fan of, I'm a fan of. He talks about kind of being that pioneer. A lot of times, you get a lot of that extra organic reach. The first people on TikTok that were doing content and stuff like that, they got a little bit extra. Now that a lot of creators are there, it's not the same, right? And speaking to what you were saying, like with the Kylie Jenner and things like that, it's like, oh, give me back what I used to have, right? Like because there's a lot of money in that, right? But for the platforms are focused on selling ads, no matter if it's so bring the eyeballs, sell the ads, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where that's how these platforms work. And so as things pop up, so this is a good point for everyone. As things pop up, if you see a new feature pop up, start using it. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about now what tactics are working right now on Instagram.
So that changes about every 2 weeks. And that's the thing with the algorithms right now is that, it took me a minute to really absorb the fact that it was changing as quickly as it was, because in my head, I'm like, there's no way that they could be making these adjustments as quickly as they are. But then one day it finally clicked. It was, hey, listen, 1 week it's using original content or original audios over using high production, Post Malone on your videos for reels, but at the time they wanted to promote, original audios. So the way that I do it is it's a constant test, right? I'm constantly testing out the algorithm. And how I do that is I take an old video that did really well and I post it with so say if I had an old video that did really well, if I want to test if they're going a certain route with original audio, I'll take that video and I'll post it with an original audio and I'll see the reaction to it. So if it reacts to where you get 5,000 to 8,000 views on Instagram or 10,000 views, whatever the case is, or keeps on going, whatever, great. That's what they're focused on right now. I can sit there and adapt my strategy for the next few weeks until I start to see those numbers start to decrease, right? I'll gain followers. I'll get the engagement that I'm looking for. That's what I'm doing. Right now, they're promoting captions, not integrating captions from an outside source, but they're actual captions on the like if you go on the Reels, if you can select to have captions on a video that Jim wants to post about SEO and he's talking about it, you can select captions and it'll auto generate it. You can edit it. Great. So those are doing really well right now. But who's to say that that's going to be a reoccurring trend or if it's going to stick around for a while? That's really what you're riding that wave until it crashes. That's the way I look at it, right?
Yep.
So when I see a trend, I hop on it and I ride it until I see the numbers go down. Find the next trend by testing, kind of absorbing content myself and seeing what's going on. See that next trend, ride the wave up until it crashes. And then there's, I think there's sort of foolproof systems out there too, like systems that are always going to work. So every time Drake releases a new song that's a hit, if you sit there and you post a reel on that, that's going to get a lot of engagement the majority of the time. I think the last one I did with him it got over 15,000 views. So Lil Nas X, same thing, because you got to understand these people, Post Malone, Lil Nas X, Drake, they have machines behind them.
Yeah.
They have people paying TikTokers, Instagram influencers to promote their videos. So if you see Post Malone is releasing a new song on Thursday night at midnight, I'm posting a reel on it at 9 a.m. Right. So that's the way I kind of look at it. And but either way,
so you're attaching yourself to that push. That's
Yep. And then, like I said, sometimes it doesn't work, but either way, it doesn't hurt to try. And that's the beauty about, TikTok and Reels is that you can post as many times as you want in a day. I'm sure it affects the algorithm a little bit, but you can still get to at least 500 to 1,000 people on a video that's silly, which was never available before.
What are you doing as far as frequency of posting? What are you finding? What are you seeing there?
So 1 to 2 posts a day right now is what I'm kind of seeing. If you do a picture coupled with a reel, doesn't do if the picture gets a high number of likes, comments, if it's getting the reach, then when you post the reel is kind of affected by the fact that you already posted that day. So, and then I do a thing that's also called starving the algorithm. So starving the algorithm is where I'll take from Friday to Sunday, like I did it this last weekend because it was my birthday, right? So I took the whole weekend off. I didn't do anything. I maybe posted 1 or 2 stories, but I didn't post at all. And what that does is when you're not on the platform, Instagram tracks that. And they want you back on the platform because 1, people like your content. Also, 2, they make ad revenue off of you being on the platform altogether. So when I'm starving out the algorithm, what I'm doing is I'm pretty much not going on it, and that's resetting everything for me. So what they do is they say, oh, this guy's not on the algorithm, or a person, I don't know. But what they do is say, hey, listen, we need to get this guy back on. So they push your content out to people that recommend or, share your content, like it or comment on it. So you get those comments, you get the notifications, you go back on your phone and you're back, you're hooked again. Right.
You're hooked in. Yeah. The notifications. That was part of the Social Dilemma documentary, right?
Yes.
It was the
back in 2018, right?
They're hooking you back in with that ding, right? They're hooking you back in with the notification.
Nothing's changed with that, and TikTok operates the same way.
That's an interesting thing, though. Like you take yourself off of the platform and make the algorithm try to pull you back on. Like that. And here, guys, this isn't scientific studied knowledge here, but it like none of it is like none of the stuff that you're doing online. It's kind of reverse engineering what might be working, right? And that can be fun too. Like you're always trying to problem solve and try something new and seeing what works. Let's talk a little bit about the content. We were talking about the content, but the tactics in using cell phone video versus professionally produced video. That's a tactic, it sounds like, to you right now also.
Yes. Well, I don't think it's as much of a tactic. I think that right now it's actually hindering me. If I did more, if I have more, and really it's just me being lazy, but what it comes down to is, I'm not a huge fan of being on camera. I don't like pushing out that content all that much. But doing voiceovers, doing, interview type content, right? Whether it's you sitting down with someone across from you at RootCon or whatever the case is, if you're doing that and you're adding captions, I think that you would get to 3,000 to 4,000 views if it's something engaging in that catches someone attention for 10 to 15 seconds. So doing videos where you're talking, JT, my buddy, he did a video on solar shingles, the GAF solar shingles that are coming out, got to 5,000 people, So if you're sitting there talking to people, I think that's what all the platforms are kind of going towards right now, is they want to see completely organic content that's either made in the app itself or that's using certain features of the app as much as possible. So, I think it's a hindrance for me as right now, because at the end of the day, I don't think the high production stuff is working like it was, 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm going to change what I love to do and what I like to do? If I'm still getting 2,000 to 3,000 views a video, probably not. But if I have something that comes to me that's, I think is good knowledge at homeowners, and that's a good piece of content, I'll make that content and I'll put it out there for people. So, for a while there, 60-second reels were frowned upon, right? I made two or three of those 60-second reels just because I wanted to make something that was high quality, that was a little bit longer. And it doesn't mean that the algorithm is going to, it might not do as well in the algorithm, but that didn't matter to me as a creator. I wanted to make sure that, I like having fun with it and doing what I genuinely want to do each and every day. If I wanted to come on and grow each and every day, I would sit there and take whatever's being promoted on Instagram that month, whether it's Pride Month or, different little things that they come up with, and you could sit there and talk about it, and you could get, 10 to 15,000 views on a video. But that's just not me. If it's not authentic, I don't want to do it. So that's the way I kind of look at it.
That's a big point for people to listen to. We're talking about all these crazy strategies and tactics, and adding audio, music here, and doing reels versus stories versus posts versus carousel posts, and all these different things, right? Mm-hmm. But really, when it comes down to it, if you're providing value, mm-hmm. that and doing it in an authentic way, that's probably what you should be doing on a day-to-day basis. And then,
rather than talking about current issues or whatever the case is, it's like, those are great points to talk about, and sure, you'll get a reaction out of it. But at the end of the day, is it working towards building your brand, or is it just hopping on a train? That's what's so popular on TikTok. Yeah. Is that, if you talk about a current event, you'll get 5,000 to 10,000 views,
or do the dance to the certain song, and that's, what I mean? Like those types of things, or do the specific reaction, or, there's a lot of things like that the algorithm likes, but I think there is a balance there in doing what's important to your audience and who you want to speak to your, then also, and your authentic self, and doing that type of stuff.
Yes. Because if you're loving what you're doing, at the end of the day, it's easy for you. When I go to work each and every day, or when I have a job, I got one coming up on Friday, I'm pumped about it. I'm ready to go to work. I'm ready to put these videos together and put them out to people. So that's what I'm saying, is that if you love doing it, then it's something that you don't get burnt out on. Whereas a lot of people struggle with burnout because they're trying to conform to these different algorithms and these different things that are going on. If you stay true to yourself, that's what's going to build authentic followers that are going to love you forever, rather than people that are just going to come and go.
Yeah, definitely. So now let's talk about this. There's a lot of contractors, a lot of roofing salespeople, a lot of people in our industry. Man, they're just not taking advantage of the opportunity. And they may think, well, it's kind of too late for me. Like everyone's, like this already happened. Both you and I see that there's another gold rush coming in this, right? The way that things are happening right now is attuned to a lot of early platforms, and getting in on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of these platforms, becoming a content creator. There's a huge opportunity right now, right in front of us, that I think everyone should jump on. Yeah. So the question I'm going to ask you is, if you were starting over today, lay out what your plan would be starting from scratch.
I think the one thing I would do right off the bat, and it really depends on production value that you have. If you have money to invest in producing long form content, right? If you have the value to do that, like you do with your podcast, I think they're a huge route for people to go. And you can take the long form content that you have and split it up into several clips that people can gain value at, and you can add them to these different short form content platforms, like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook Reels, which those are kind of hit or miss. But YouTube Shorts, that's another thing that's popping up that you can easily get 100,000 views on. So if I would start over again, I would, which I'm kind of going through some changes that I'm going to make. I'm going to start with YouTube and work my way backwards to the other platforms. I think YouTube's a huge platform that people can take advantage of and monetize very easily on as well by running sponsored ads, different things like that. That gives you revenue to kind of put towards the production aspect of what you're doing. But also, YouTube is something that you can split up and you can change and you can adapt to other platforms. So having a video that you're putting out on YouTube, splitting it up, putting it into YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and Facebook, I think that's where I would start right now if I was starting over again. But I still think Instagram is the most user-friendly platform. So the thing about what I said about YouTube is that YouTube is a complex, very frustrating platform that's already huge, that has millions and millions and millions and millions of videos being uploaded daily. So that's an extremely tough platform to start on. Now, by them introducing Shorts, it gives a platform for people to grow. It's a little bit tougher to get people to subscribe that way, but it's another avenue people can take to grow quick on YouTube. But with Instagram, there's so many user-friendly things that you can do, from using filters to cutting up audio to doing voiceovers. You can DM videos to people. You can DM. There's so many different features in the Instagram app that I think if you look over the next 5 years, I think Instagram's ultimately going to win out because they just have the money, they have the attention as it is right now, and they have the best features. They adapted, pretty much everything to their platform. Any way you want to go, you can be satisfied as a creator. So I think if you're looking for something easy to get contractors into producing content, I think Instagram's the best route to just go right off your phone and be able to produce content at a high level. But I think, these other platforms, YouTube in particularly, I think that's very attractive to me right now. And then also TikTok, obviously, is I think if you're looking at views, is probably the dominating platform at the moment. But I still need to see more changing. That's the thing. You don't see a lot of changing going on with their platform. It's just kind of going all in on what's made them successful already. So I think that's great for now. But over the course of 1 year to 2 years, is that going to wear on the consumer? Are they going to get tired of it? I've seen it happen with the younger generation, like my girlfriend's little sisters. They kind of went through this thing where, TikTok's not it anymore. We're not, but they're kind of starving for a platform. They're still on Snapchat and they're still on Instagram, but they're kind of off TikTok completely,
Yeah.
So you're seeing that burnout. Is that going to come to the older generation that's on it right now? You're seeing a lot of people in their 30s and 40s, and even like my father in their 50s on TikTok, just kind of absorbing the different content that they have. So it's a very interesting time, but I think no matter what route you go, there's a tremendous amount of value for everyone to grow right now. I think if you start on Instagram Shorts and you figure that platform out, you get 100 to 200,000 views. That's going to be, that's going to do tremendous things for the amount of people who are subscribing to your platform. And same thing with TikTok. If you figure that out, That's 100,000 views. No other time in the history of social media could you do that for free.
Yeah, it's, it to me, I've seen all the waves of it. And this is definitely another one of those waves that people need to jump on and ride. Andrew, appreciate your time today, man. Always awesome talking to you. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.